So let me quickly start with an introduction of myself. My name is Sushma. I head the product management with Bellrock. Uh, I have been a product manager for the last 14 years, mainly specifically involved with market expansion of fintech products across Asia, America, and Europe. This is probably a good subject for me because I have personally felt some of the pitfalls that I'm going to speak to you about. So all of this experiences that I'm sharing as my own, as well as some of the borrowed experience from my team as well. So this session is more interactive. Just wanted to share some stories, some anecdotes, and if you're thinking about market expansion, some of the things that you should keep in mind, just so that you don't earn your own stripes. I have earned my own, so I'm here to tell the story. And this is going to be hopefully a very interactive session. Again, this is just a short introduction of my own self. Having worked with fintech industries, mostly for leading brands in the America, as well as some of the Asian brands, the learnings has been tremendous and very varied. Is how I would summarize my uh, close to 2 decades of experience. So let's get started. The topic today is market expansion. And market expansion could mean many things for many people. And this framework of ANSOF, which is the ANSOF metrics, is something that many of us would have seen in some shape or form. I have tweaked it to the best of how I understand the metrics to be and how I personally relate to it. On the x-axis, I have the markets, which is the existing and the new markets, and on the y-axis are the existing and new products. So, depending on which quadrant you're looking at, there are specific terminologies that people use in terms of identifying what a market expansion could be. One of the first example is where I have an existing product and I'm going to take it to a new market. So it could be international expansion or maybe an in-country domestic expansion, or it could be as simple as I'm trying out a new customer segment. It can be as varied as that in that quadrant. What it means is that you're developing the market for your existing product. One of the knowns is your product. One of the unknowns is the new market. Depending on how you are placing it and how you're thinking about the segment or the new market, there could be nuances to it. The second example is where it's an existing product and it's an existing market, but you are going more deeper into the market. It's the market penetration that we are talking about. So it could be as simple as introducing a new set of marketing efforts for the existing market, or you have acquired a competitor and you're trying to capture the competitor's market as well. So but both the aspects of the market as well as the product are known devils here, and hence it is called as market penetration, which is slightly different from the market development that we discussed earlier. The third one comes is where you're looking at a new market and then there is a new product that you're introducing. So completely new game. You have not seen anything of this sort before. It is completely new to the market as well as to yourself, and hence I have called it as a diversification. Some examples could be related or unrelated diversification, which could bring in its own flavors as well. Last but not the least is the product development, which is where you are introducing a new product into the existing market, which means that you know the market, you know how it behaves and whatnot, but one unknown that you're introducing is a new product which could bring its own learnings as well. Many of our clients with Bellrock are either in the product development phase or the market development phase, but across all the team members, we have experiences in all the four quadrants, and the learnings has been so varied. But we have seen more practical experiences happening on the product development as well as the market development. Why I brought this answer of metrics to the picture is that there is an element of risk when there is an unknown that comes into the picture. When we talk about a new product or a new market in whichever quadrant that you're looking at, there has to be some risk versus return kind of a story which is getting developed there. Depending on which quadrant you're in, the risk increases or decreases, whichever way you look at. So the ANSOF metrics helps us place ourselves in a mental model of what we should be looking at in terms of preparedness when we want to be risk mitigating or making plans to make sure that our release plans, our product release plans are not going awry. So that's how the ANSOF metrics has been pretty useful, at least to do a mental mapping on the preparedness of any of our clients with Bellrock. This slide is probably a summary slide of what's going to follow in the next 40-45 minutes, and I'm going to talk about the 5 common pitfalls typically seen or experienced when we talk about market expansion. I'm going to bring them one by one, and then I would like to check in with you as a group if you have seen anything different as well. The first one is where the assumptions which are taken by the product team or by the company is based on the current customer base. You already have a product in the market, it has done really well. Now you are going to through the market expansion, and the most common mistakes that we do is that yes, I think I know how the new customer is going to react, and we make this common pitfall. This assumption is going to be pretty dangerous. The second one is inadequate research on local nuances. Depending on whether it's a new product or a new market, there are some local nuances which might be very specific to the product in use and the customer in question. There could be nuances that you wouldn't have either come across in your existing product or market. So it is always very important to make enough research about the local nuances before entering into a new market. And we'll see some examples as well. The third common pitfall that I have earlier faced is that I did not have any partners on ground to help me do my market expansion. What I mean by partners on ground are people who are in person in the local market, in the new market, who can act as your ears and eyes on the ground. It is very important for virtually distant teams to have somebody, at least a person in the home in the target market, who can help you find the local nuances, who can help you understand what the customers are saying and speaking about the product. The fourth one is the lack of pilot studies. This is pilot in the sense that when you're planning to release a new market, have you done enough testing beforehand before the product gets released? Pilot studies could be as early as when you're doing your sketches of your product. Have you done some customer feedback, customer interviews, and it could go all the way to beta testing. But there has to be some pilot studies that is super important when we think about market expansion. And last but not the least is a over hasty full market release. Once we are ready with the product, we just want to get it out in the market. We want to learn from the market, reap in all the benefits that we think are going to come as part of the release. But over hastiness always results in some kind of blind spots that gets created in the market, in the market release timeline, which is what we want to avoid. Again, all of these common pitfalls are based on my experiences and based on my team's experiences of taking new products or getting into new markets, and I would love to learn more. Anything that the team feels is something that you have seen beforehand, anything that strikes you out as yes, I have seen this before and I've experienced this before. Yeah. Okay. I'll keep going with the existing 5 common pitfalls, and we'll learn more stories about it. The first one was on the assumptions based on the current customer base. Um, in our experiences that we have gone through, we have seen that when a customer behaves or does certain things in a certain way in an existing market, there is always a need to learn more about it. Once you know about the customer, it is always a very common misconception that every customer in every new market is going to be acting in the same way. A very close to heart example is where we were releasing a marketplace for tax professionals and tax payers, where a taxpayer could reach out to a tax professional on on a common platform, and they could avail their services. When this product was released back in the US, it got raving success. It was many people liked the aspect that they had tax preparers on their hands, fingertips, and they could see how much are they rated out. Have they been given excellent service? They had a 5-star rating or a 4-star rating, and so on and so forth. When the same product was planned to released in India, we realized that in India, the tax professionals typically come from somebody whom your parents have worked with, like they have experience with the tax profession, and they get recommended to the generations down. So it is never somebody. It has never happened that a salaried daughter or a son who would want to go to a new tax professional and get the tax returns done. They would always look up at their parents for advice, and typically the parents are the ones who help the children in financial matters. So our idea bombed out at first. We had to do a lot more customer interviews to understand why is this not picking up. Why would you not choose something from the marketplace? And then we realized that the trust which a parent brings during this particular financial transaction is super and paramount in certain countries, whereas in certain countries more children are more independent. They would want to do things of their own, and hence having a social proof of the accountant was pretty helpful. So this was one of the examples that we had faced when we were doing a fintech product, and this is based on the differing customer personas that we come across in various markets. The problem and the value perception of the customer could also be different in different markets. Like how you perceive a tax preparation could be very different from how your colleague, say in America, would perceive a tax preparation process. It is the amount of pain that you would have to go through, and the scale on which you have to prepare for it is something that, as a perception, is differing across many countries. Similarly, the value perception of what a product could give you also differs between customers, and hence it is super important to know who your customers are, how have they been doing a certain process till date, for you to understand how the customer is going to behave with the new product or service that you will involve. So this is one of the example that we had faced. The second common pitfall is the inadequate research on local nuances. As I was mentioning before, there are so many stories on the internet where there has been so many foxpot created by the marketing teams of bigger brand names without knowing what the local nuances are. One of a very famous example that I have learned while growing up is that how a detergent ad, when it had gotten real good success with their hoardings, the billboard holding, it had like three panels of the detergent, and in one of the panels you could see a dirty cloth being dipped in a bucket filled with the detergent. The second panel would be the detergent, and out comes a clean cloth in when you see the third panel. When the same marketing was done in an Islamic country, without knowing that where the rest of the world is reading from left to right, they read from right to left, which means a clean cloth, when it gets into the bucket with detergent, comes out as a dirty cloth. Nobody wants it, right? My child does it in minutes. I don't need a detergent for that. So these are some local nuances that we have grown up hearing about, but still it doesn't stop us from learning more about a the local market before entering into a new market. Another famous example is the use of text. This is a very old ad that I have put on the slide, which is of Electrolux. Um, it used the words "nothing sucks like Electrolux," and in certain geographies, the word "sucks" it could mean in a very slangish way very bad, and you don't want that to be associated with your product or a brand name. So the need to know what the customer is saying and why they are saying it and what it means in the local parlance is super important when we are thinking about the product. It could be as simple as a currency, it could be as simple as a salutation, it could be as simple as numbers or commas. Or full stops which are used in prices. These are all super important for you to know before you release into a new market. The reason why these are important is because simple things like this could take your product roadmap into a spin. It could create a very long tail of the product roadmap, which you as an entrepreneur, as a person who wants to release the product sooner in the market, will take months if not weeks to complete. So it gets very difficult when there is a localization angle to it. And localization just doesn't stop at language. It could be as varied as, like the way I mentioned, the currencies, the salutations, the taxes. Everything could cause a lot of anxiety in the product roadmap. Let's go to the third one. The third one is this. I have learned it a very hard way. This is having partners on ground. What I mean by that is, when we think about the customers, when we think about the local nuances, there is a need for the core team, for the product team to be there and do all the learnings themselves. What it means is that you will be spending days and months of doing the testing, of understanding what the market is about, and things which will take a long duration for you to master on. Instead, if you partner with people who are already there in the market, who are very knowledgeable about the like the local traditions and customs, they can help shorten the learning curve of the market understanding phase. Else, it just takes too much of ages for you to like learn about the product and then release the product. In my experience of, let's say the example, when we were doing a medical app for women for a specific country, and we wanted to understand how women are actually approaching both for their mental as well as physical health, the gynecological health. How are they approaching the doctors? How are they seeking help from their existing set of doctors? What we did was that, even though the doctors were not the actual users of our product, we enlisted some of the doctors to help us get to the market understanding phase much more sooner than what we as a core team would have achieved. We also use some of the medical shop representatives to understand what women come to them with, what kind of questions or what kind of recommendations that they seek when they come to a medical shop. So as you can see, both the shops and the the medicine shop owners, both are not our actual customers, but they can be our partners in this whole journey, who can help us understand the product better, how it would serve our end customer better, with you not even being in the physically in that market. And which is why I have learned this hard lesson, that whenever we start off on a particular product, I always look at the acquisition stage and the after sales stage, and see if there are partners that I can acquire who are based in those newer markets, who can help me understand that, okay, this is the local custom, this is how things have been happening. And it also helps me understand that how I can serve my customers, the new customers, end to end in a much more valuable fashion. So partners are super critical in this whole journey of, first is understanding, and second also to provide an end-to-end value to your customers. So something to definitely keep in mind. The fourth one is lack of pilot studies. I think many of us who have either launched a product or who has been thinking about a new product also understand that testing something with the actual customers is very crucial. Pilot studies, I have seen many of our clients face the hesitation that the pilot studies are not something that we want to invest time on, because we have done the development and now we want to do the release. It is it's so crucial to help test them out, to overcome that learning curve. That pilot studies is a crucial and an important piece as part of the product development, and it should not be thought about as an after the fact. It has to be ingrained within the product development, and hence super important to have pilot studies as one of the key milestones in your whole GTM, the going to market timeline. It helps you takes like baby steps in understanding each and every aspect of it. Yes, it is time consuming, but it is a time well worth that you would rather spend before rather than later trying to salvage any brand loss or any image loss. And it's a very common perception that pilot studies is only for the product or the user experience that you would want to give as part of your product or services. I would differ with saying that it has to be done along all angles of the product. It should be on marketing, it should be on pricing, features, yes, and customer service as well. You have to have pilot studies, you have to have tested that whatever you're planning to release, at least with a set of customers. Another misconception is that even if there is a pilot studies which is planned for in a new product release, it always happens that you're testing the product with somebody who's very close to the development process. What I mean by that is, it could be you're testing it out with somebody who's on your team, or your very close knit customer club, and things like that. What we don't realize is that these people who are part of our pilot studies have some kind of they don't they probably would be giving feedback based on a biased opinion. What you want is an unbiased opinion of how a neutral customer would perceive the products or services, would perceive the price changes, would perceive the marketing activities. Super crucial. I don't think I can emphasize enough to my clients when I say that please let's mark some time out to do the pilot studies, and let's get some unbiased customers set, so that we are not burning our fingers in the process. So lack of pilot studies has been one of the common pitfalls that we have seen. Last but not the least is, when you have finished, like let's say you have done your customer analysis, you have done your pilots release, you are super confident that you want to make a full market release. Again, I would suggest that we rein in and do cluster by cluster or in a phased manner, because anything that could go wrong will go wrong when in the initial few days, and you don't want the impact of the whatever has gone wrong to the whole of the population. You would rather have it with clusters of people, with the clusters of customer persona or cohort of customers, so that you can do the damage control a lot more faster, a lot more hands on method. If it's a full scale, you are putting too many things at risk. You have your brand image at risk. You are not able to satisfy your customers, which is not what you want for your first release of your product. It's your baby, so please let it take baby steps in releasing the product, rather than going full blow, full steam ahead. So this was me. This is my experience where we talked about the five common pitfalls. I would love to hear more from the group if you have any experiences that you have had before, any questions that you would want to share, any things that you want to share. I'm more than happy to talk about it.
I have a question. A lot of those examples were B2C cases. Is there a difference if you are doing the B2B?
I would say yes and no, but the intensity of each of these phases that we are talking about, each of the common pitfalls, differ when it's a B2B or a B2C. So let me explain that a little bit more. When we think about pilot studies, for example, we want to make sure that B2B cases where customers are not large in numbers, but they are very impactful in terms of the feedback. It is super important to have these pilot studies at least with 10% of your population. And when I say population, I mean a neutral population. Whereas in a B2C case, you would want to have many people doing your pilot studies because the numbers are more and the impact is less. So I would just say, Marco, the intensity of how we approach each of these problems could differ between a B2B and a B2C, but it's always nothing differs between the two sections.
Thank you.
Any other question? Any other experiences that you have had? Cool. If you have anything, if you are thinking about any of your colleagues or any of your fellow entrepreneurs who would benefit from, thank you, any of your friends who would benefit from this market expansion and a more streamlined basis of market entry, feel free to approach us. I'm sharing my name and my contact details, and you will also receive a follow-up email from us to seek feedback. And if you need more help with your market expansion, feel free to reach us out from that avenue as well. Yes. Thank you very much. If there are
Thank
any
you.
more questions, I'll be hanging around. If not, everybody have a good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.